Hi, I'm Andrew Dickinson, author of Dreamcast Year 1 and Year 2, and you're listening to the SEGA Lounge.
Welcome to the SEGA Lounge, a podcast dedicated to our love for all things Sega, be it the games, the music, or the community. I'm KC. In each episode, I'll be talking to different guests and sharing their projects and their passion for Sega. Hello everyone and welcome to the SEGA Lounge, the podcast equivalent to a facial mask. It's sometimes inconvenient, but you know you need it in order to survive. Well, maybe not. Never mind. Just wear a mask. Thank you very much for joining me for a brand new episode of the show. It's great to have you here, and I hope you enjoy this week's interview as we learn more about a new book about the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast has a very special place in my heart, as it was the very first console I ever bought with my own money back in the year 2000. I was attending a professional school at the time and I received sort of a monthly scholarship, which I had to save for a few months before I could afford the system. Before I even got the console, I actually acquired Sonic Adventure and a VMU. I didn't realize how much of a torture it would be to have the game sitting on my desk for months before I could play it. Fun times. 20 years later, it's crazy to think about how important some of the games I played on the Dreamcast were and still are to me. What about you? Got any special memories of the Dreamcast and its games? Feel free to share them by going to this episode's page on our website and use the comments section there. You'll find it at thesegalounge.com/122. That's episode 122. Or you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/the SEGA Lounge, and leave us a comment there. Anyway, what's happening on the show this week? This week I'm talking to Andrew Dickinson. Andrew is the author of the Dreamcast Year 1 book, which was successfully funded last year through Kickstarter. Putting the book together spawned a few other projects for Andrew, including the Dreamcast Years podcast, and of course, a second book titled Dreamcast Year 2. Along with a team of talented and knowledgeable contributors, Andrew is this time focusing on the second year of existence of Sega's White Box. Dreamcast Year 2 is coming to Kickstarter on July 28th, and I sat down with Andrew to learn more about his love for the console, the books, the podcast, and to put his knowledge of the Dreamcast to the test. Yes, it's quite a challenging SEGA Lounge challenge this week. Stick around and enjoy. Hello Andrew, welcome to the SEGA Lounge.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the lounge. So we're here to talk about the Dreamcast Year 2 book, which is going to be going live on Kickstarter very soon. Mm-hmm. But let's rewind a little bit for people not familiar with you. So would you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your history with video games, how you got so into the Dreamcast and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. Gosh, I'm rewinding a lot. I'm 35, so I've got to rewind until I was about 15, so a good 20
Your
years ago.
social security number as well, please.
Your date of birth, yeah, all that. But yeah, I got into games. I mean, I've had game consoles since I can remember, so we kind of grew up with the NES and the SNES. And it's just one of those things, like, you know, as kids we thought they were cool, and me and my brother especially would think that video games were cool. But it was back in the time when kids would play outside quite a lot rather than play on video games. So games are like secondary. So we'd be playing outside most of the time. And if it was raining or if we were bored, we'd stick on the NES or the SNES. And it really wasn't until I got probably until about 14 that I really properly got into video gaming as as a thing that I really enjoyed and was passionate about, and that was because of that was the PlayStation. So I'd really enjoyed, my bits and bobs of gaming. I loved Mario. It's my favorite platformer. I never owned a Sega console, by the way. Up until that point, it was always Nintendo. And then the PlayStation came along, and it was so much more advanced than, the 2D graphics that I was used to, and it kind of just took me by surprise. My stepsister had brought it over, and she had a copy of Resident Evil, and so I kind of just ended up playing. I took the console to my room because they were all busy doing something else, and I just thought, I'll go play this then. So I took it to my room. I was lucky enough to have a TV in my room, and I ended up playing Resident Evil and just absolutely fell in love with the PlayStation and with the Resident Evil franchise. And that's kind of where my love of gaming started, really. It's just realizing that I'd always loved horror films. I mean, my mum is a horror film fan, so from the age of maybe 11, which is probably way too young for a child to be interested in horror movies, but from the age of 11, I was watching horror movies and all that kind of stuff. So Resident Evil was kind of like mixing two of my favorite things, video games and horror, and that kind of really pulled me in. And so then the reason that I got into Dreamcast was that it had Resident Evil Code Veronica. I'd played Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and they started to kind of talk about the fact that the next Resident Evil game was going to be exclusive to the Sega Dreamcast. And I was like, oh, okay. I've never owned a Sega console before, but I absolutely love Resident Evil. And it seemed really, I couldn't imagine not playing the next Resident Evil game, so it became my mission then to get a Dreamcast. I knew not much else about it. I didn't really know much about the other games. I kind of looked at a few bits and bobs in magazines, and but my focus was on Resident Evil. So it was my 16th birthday in 1999, in 2000, which is the year after the Dreamcast came out in Europe. And so I said to my mum, look, I really need a Dreamcast. It's my 16th. It's kind of a big deal. I don't know if 16th is still a big deal anymore, but at the time it felt like it was a big deal. And so I was like, can I have a Dreamcast? And it was like, sure. A second-hand Dreamcast, of course, but, a Dreamcast nonetheless. So I got a Dreamcast. I got Crazy Taxi, Power Stone, and Resident Evil Code Veronica, of course. And I played Code Veronica, absolutely loved it. But of course I played Crazy Taxi and I played Power Stone. And what shocked me and surprised me was here were two games that were unlike anything else I'd ever played before on PlayStation, on SNES, on anything. I'd never really touched arcade style games as such. I might have played a bit of Tekken here and there perhaps, but and the fact that they were so colourful and vibrant and the graphics were so good just completely pulled me in. And from then on I was just like, Dreamcast is like the best thing ever. And I was 16. I was at that age where everything is a big influence to you, and influences how you grow up, I guess, and what kind of person you become growing up. And it was the dawn of the internet. The internet had been around for a few years, but this was the time of message boards and chat rooms. And so I got chatting to people on there and ended up writing for a fan site. And that's just how my love of Dreamcast started, and didn't really end. So awesome. I guess that's where it began.
Yeah. Do you remember what fan site you wrote for at the time?
Yeah, so it was another guy who's the same age as me, and he was just starting up a site that he wanted to write for, and it was called Dreamcast Source. Dreamcastsource.co.uk, which is still around. Obviously, it's not been updated since 2001, but the guy who created it kind of just kept the domain and kept the site up, just kind of as almost a tribute to the Dreamcast. It's not, so the writing that I did a few reviews and features and stuff like that. I was 16. It was not my best work. I really liked exclamation marks when I was 16, and I really liked using capital letters. So it was, it was very excitable. So it was fine, but it was an interesting site, and it's where I started to meet like-minded people as well, because we had a forum. We actually had our own little Dreamcast Source forum, which was amazing to me because there were things that big sites had, and at the time, and the guy who ran it managed to plug one into our site, and so I got to chat to people who also really liked the Dreamcast and had a little community going, and that was my first taste of a gaming community, and that's kind of what I love to this day, is being able to chat to people about video games. What's better than that?
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm just checking the website as we speak. Dreamcastsource.co.uk. It's
Yes.
definitely early 2000s. Yes,
It
definitely.
is, yes, absolutely. All the little ads to one side and polls and things like that. It's
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
that's true. And I like the content on the main page is great. A review of
Mm,
Sonic Adventure, Spider Man, Worms World Party, one of my favorite games on the Dreamcast. By the way,
mm,
Skies of Arcadia. Awesome,
yeah,
awesome,
so
amazing.
much stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Excellent. Okay, so what would you say is your favorite game in the Dreamcast library, Andrew?
Oh, it's
Ooh.
that's a yeah, it's a difficult one. I
Okay,
mean,
top three if you want to.
oh, okay, even that's difficult. There's so many good games. I mean, I would if I had to do top three, Code Veronica would be up there because it was a great Resident Evil game, and it's the reason that I kind of came to the system. Shenmue. Um, I say a lot of people would class that as their favorite. Although to be fair, these days it's quite
I
a
do.
controversial opinion. I think a lot of people don't think the same, but you think the same
I
way.
still do. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
There's
my
something
all
about it.
time favorite still.
Yes,
Actually,
I mean it's
I when I think about the two together, not exactly just one. I think one in certain ways is better than two.
mm,
But I think the whole experience of the Shenmue series, yes, it's still my
yes,
favorite. Yeah.
yeah.
So
We can class them
sorry.
together. That's
Yeah.
one game.
Keep going. Yeah, yeah.
That's fine. No, but I agree. I do agree. And one was so special at the time because it was nothing that you'd ever experienced before ever. It was just
Yeah.
that the uniqueness of it and the realness of it as well. I've said before to other people that it felt like games were and they still are, but they at the time they were like an escape from your normal life, like going to school or going to your part-time
Mm-hmm.
job or like your parents or whatever. You was your escape from all of that stuff, and it was being able to experience something that you just couldn't experience in real life. And the thing with Shenmue is it was real life. It was somebody's, it was a facsimile of somebody's life in
Mm-hmm.
Japan in the 80s. It was based on something very real, down to the weather systems that were correct to the
Yeah.
day of when they were happening. So it was, it wasn't this fantasy game that you were slaying dragons or, going on some kind of sci-fi adventure in a spaceship. You were doing something that you technically could, you could do for real. You could go to those places if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
think that there's a bit of what you said before.
mm,
So I'm 36, so we're
mhm,
almost the same age.
sure.
So it were those years that were like our formative years as well. So
Mm,
things that we experienced at the time stuck with us for a long time,
sure.
influenced our growth as well as people. And so I think that's the same thing for a lot of other Shenmue fans. We were mostly all the same age
Mm,
at the time, and so maybe that's why it stuck with us for such a long time. And also the
yeah.
fact that we wanted to know what would happen next as well in the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and that's I think that's the fact that the reason that it's endured so much. There was no new Shenmue game for 18 years after two. We waited for 18 years until three came out, and people hounded Yu Suzuki, and they really wanted to see what happened next. And that's like you say, it's because it came at such an important time for a lot of people. That some people I've spoken to. So one of the podcasts I do, which I'm sure we'll speak about later, which is DCY. Um, Steve, who is on that with me, one of my co-hosts, he's not so much of a fan of Shenmue, but even if you're not a fan of the game itself, the systems perhaps haven't aged as well as some games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it as a game, it's perhaps not the best, but it's not just about the game systems and how it works as a game. It's about the story. It's about the emotions that it gives you, and you can almost and I have overlooked the flaws in Shenmue because I enjoy the other things that it offers so much. So, and as time goes on, as years, time marches on. 18 years later, that Shenmue 3 came out, people look at it with rose tinted glasses. They only remember the emotions that they felt and the story
Yeah.
that was told and how they felt. And then it came to Shenmue 3 coming out, which I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it was almost like, oh, okay, it's a Shenmue game. I'd forgotten what these were like. They're not the best in terms of systems. So that's why it didn't maybe review or sell as well as it could have done. But it still appealed to those people from 20 years ago who loved Shenmue, and that's why it got made. But anyway, I digress. That was a proper tangent.
By the way, not wanting to diverge too much from the top 3 thing, but your thoughts on Shenmue 3, by the way, as a fan.
So it came at a time when I've been very busy, so I've only played about 4 or 5 hours of it, unfortunately.
I haven't finished it yet either.
No, so. I don't think a lot of people have, weirdly, but it's. I shed a tear when it started. Put it that way. When I first saw Ryo, and he was kind of walking through the really beautiful countryside with Shenhua, and I was like, oh my god, this is where I left off 20 years ago, and here it is again. It was emotional for sure, and then it was kind of picking up what Shenmue is about again, because I haven't really replayed them to any big degree since I first played them. I think I've played bits of them here and there, but because they're such huge games, I've not replayed them as such. But so getting back into those systems was interesting, and it's a much slower burn as well because it's in a village rather than a town or a city. I felt that like it was really slowly introducing you to things again, which I quite liked. But I do hope it picks up a little bit because it is quite slow the first few hours. So yeah, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I played a little bit more than you, but still haven't finished it. I got into the second area of the game, not spoiling anything, but there's another town later, and so it definitely picks up. It opens up as well because not all of the village areas are open to you at first as well. So. They're really trying to get you into the swing of things again and introducing new concepts and whatnot. But it's definitely a Shenmue game, right? It's definitely what people wanted, even if they don't remember. But that was what they wanted. Like a Dreamcast, like a Shenmue 3 on the Dreamcast. This would be what we would get if we got a sequel back in the day.
Exactly, yeah. And that was weird because that was also people's complaint about it. It's like, oh, it's not moved with the times. And it's like, but no, people who backed the Kickstarter didn't want a drastically different game. They wanted what Shenmue 3 would have been 20 years ago. They don't want like, it to be some kind of weird Assassin's Creed hybrid Grand Theft Auto, game. They want it to be this slow, deliberate, emotionally charged game. It's not a modern game at all, and it shouldn't be. So I think they did well to stick with their guns and make it something that was of the time, just with improved graphics.
Definitely, yeah. And so, Code Veronica, Shenmue, and the rest of the top 3.
So I have a difficult time deciding between Crazy Taxi and Power Stone because, again, 2 of my first Dreamcast games, but they informed quite a lot of what I enjoyed about the system. Crazy Taxi is almost the perfect arcade game. It is just so much fun. It's so colourful. There's just so much to do, and it defines the Dreamcast as well to me. It has the. If I think about Dreamcast, I pretty much instantly think of Crazy Taxi. I spent so much time with that game. It's colourful like the Dreamcast was. It just embodies the Dreamcast to me. And then Power Stone, on the other hand, it's not a Sega game, but also it's an arcade title, which Sega are known for, even though it's a Capcom game. And it's just so unique. It did something for fighting games that 3D fighters hadn't actually diverged much from side on view fight each other. It was the same 2D. It was 2D, a 2D fighter with 3D graphics until Power Stone came along, and Power Stone showed that you could do other things other than just have a side on fight with somebody. You could use the whole 3D space. You could actually run around and pick up objects and use them as part of the whole thing. So Crazy Taxi embodies the Dreamcast as a whole, and Power Stone to me almost embodies the what Dreamcast could do, and the fact that it was so unique and kind of groundbreaking as well. So I guess top 4 then. I'll say top 4.
Well, if you want one more, and we have a top 5, so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not.
I'll just Jet Set Radio. That was a great game.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Some great picks. I know the feeling of struggling with picking the best ones on the Dreamcast. Yeah, I know it's not easy at all. No, okay, really so you already mentioned what made you like the Dreamcast and whatnot. But then you, at some point, decided to um, create a book about the different years, or at least the first year of the Dreamcast, right? So that was Dreamcast Year 1.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell
right.
us a little bit more about how that came to be, how you got the idea, how that happened?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, 2001 Dreamcast died, and the fan site that I wrote for kind of died with it. And from then on, I kind of just, I went to university. I got a job. I did normal life stuff, and I always gamed in between. But any kind of writing really didn't go anywhere. And I occasionally wrote a few bits here and there. I think I wrote for a friend's blog once about the Dreamcast, and I'd always kind of had this dream in the back of my head that I would do something one day. I'd write something, and it was always one day. And I then became, I think, when was this? This would have been like 2015, maybe 2014. Maybe 2013, I don't know. But anyway, at some point, Kickstarter happened. And Kickstarter for me was this, I was just using it as a consumer. I absolutely loved that the people could go on there and they could fund their vision, their creative vision, and make something from it. So, you get board games, video games, books, people who can't go through the traditional method of funding what they want to make. So they get it crowdfunded instead. And I've backed a lot of projects on Kickstarter, a huge amount, and so it was there. I was kind of like, okay, if I was to do something, I could do it through Kickstarter. Seems like a good idea. I can find people who like the same stuff as me and believe in what I want to do. But it wasn't until there was one particular Kickstarter project that I backed called PlayStation Vita Year 1, which is by a gentleman called Sandeep Rai. And he was writing about his favorite console, which is the PlayStation Vita. He's a dad, and just like me, he loved games when he was a kid, and he continued to play them. But when he had children, he found it very difficult then to actually play games sat in front of the TV, because it's just, the kids wanted to watch cartoons, and he's busy and he's got loads of things to do. And he found that the PlayStation Vita, when he picked one of those up, he could play that on the way to work. He could play in bed before he went to bed. He could just kind of steal moments of time to play games that he really loved, even with all the stuff that was happening in his life. And I don't have kids, but I enjoyed the Vita anyway. I think it's a great console, and so I backed the book. And the whole concept of that book was to kind of look at the first year, and how it came to be, how Sony created it, what how it was marketed, how it launched, and how well it did, with retrospectives on the games that launched and all that kind of stuff. So I backed that, and I was very excited for it. And eventually my copy arrived, and I kind of looking through it, and I was thinking to myself the whole time I was reading it that this, they're not the same console, they're not exactly the same in terms of their story, but the Vita and the Dreamcast are very similar in the fact that they were underdogs almost, and Dreamcast definitely was an underdog, and it was but they perhaps were finished too soon, and other consoles were kind of beating them in terms of, for the Vita, it was the 3DS. The 3DS kind of, Nintendo has the stranglehold on the handheld market, and for the Dreamcast, it was the PS2. So I figured, hey, this seems like a great format to tell the story of the Dreamcast. It's not something that's been done before in that particular format. And also, I wanted to tell the story from a European perspective rather than kind of the American and the Japanese perspective that you would generally see when you read up about the Dreamcast. So I approached Sandeep and I said, I really like the book and I really want to write a version of it, but about the Dreamcast. And he was like, sure, that's fine. Yeah, go for it. That would be great. So he just kind of became, for the first book, he became a bit of a mentor and, helped me in the initial stages to get things started, and gave me feedback and advice, and yeah, that's kind of how it got started. I just decided, hey, I'm going to do this, and it came at a point in time for my life as well where I was struggling personally with things like depression and anxiety and just kind of a purpose for my life. I'd got to a point where I have a partner, we have a house together, I've got a job, and that's all great, but what do I want to do? What's my life about? Is my life literally just about going to work, making money, paying bills? And that kind of felt like, oh, I don't like that. but it's necessary. It's a necessary evil to live in the world we do. So I was like, okay, well, I've got to work. I can't like leave my job and pursue a crazy dream of writing. So I'll do it in this way. I will use Kickstarter, which I'd found was a great tool for people to create things, and I'll use this format that Sandeep had created to tell a story in it's fairly short form. The first book is 112 pages. I think it ended up being 118 pages. So, or was it 112? I can't even remember how many pages my own book was, but it was about 112 pages. But yeah, so it's a short book, so it's not like it would eat into my life significantly enough that I wouldn't have to work. So it all just kind of came about, and I was like, right, I'm going to kind of get myself out of this hole that I found myself in by doing something that I'm passionate about, writing about the Dreamcast, which I've always been passionate about, and sharing that with other people. So that's really how the first book came about. It was about me trying to get out of a bit of a dark place in my life and share my passion for the Dreamcast with other people.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write the book? By the way, it wasn't something that you did all day long, so it wasn't your job, like just a hobby. So how long did it take you to complete the thing?
So I kind of started, the first interview I did was in August 2018, and then the Kickstarter launched in March 2019, and I finished writing, I think it was December 2019. So it was just over a year in total. I mean, by the time the Kickstarter had gone live, about 20% of the book had been written. So not a huge amount, but enough that I could put together like a pitch, a little sample version of the book. And it was after the Kickstarter that I completed the rest of it. But in actual fact, the stuff that I wrote and did before the Kickstarter ended up getting changed quite significantly because I didn't have an editor before the Kickstarter campaign. And as a result of the Kickstarter campaign, somebody approached me and was like, hey, I edit stuff. I'm more than happy to help you. And he works for, this is Matt Gardner, who's the editor of Dreamcast Year 1. He'll be the editor for Dreamcast Year 2 as well. He works for Forbes.com. He has his own gaming website called Game Tripper UK. And yeah, so he approached me basically, and I said, sure. I'd not really thought about having an editor. I was just going to read through myself and make sure there were no typos. But sure, yeah, that sounds like a great idea to have somebody actually read through my stuff. And everything got redone, and he kind of gave me this ability to look at the writing process differently and make it much more professional than perhaps it was originally going to be. It was more going to be like a passion project, just going to be me writing and maybe getting somebody to read through and make sure there were no typos, like I say. But yeah, it turned out that it took a lot longer than I anticipated. It took until December 2019 because it became much more of a professional thing, and I wanted to make sure it was perfect, and so did Matt. So yeah, it could have been a shorter window, but to get it right, it took longer. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
If you want something to be good, you have to take your time with it. So
very true.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And so, by the way, why exactly, or what exactly did you ask from Kickstarter people, from pledgers? Why did you need people to contribute to this project, to help you out? What exactly, and the same goes for this second one that we'll talk about next. What are the needs of creating a Kickstarter project exactly?
Sure. I mean, really, it's for the first one, it was about obviously there are costs involved in publishing the book, and that's a lot of people will take that on their own shoulders, and they'll kind of write the book and publish it, and then then they'll sell it and they'll make back the money that they put out. I don't have a huge amount of money. I'm not a rich person, and it costs a good few £1,000s to self-publish a book. And sure, that it's possible that I could have saved that money and done it, but it would have taken a huge amount of time for me to do that. So the book would have taken a lot longer to come out. But it wasn't just about that for me. It was, I could have done it myself, but I kind of wanted the input and the input from other people. So the Kickstarter campaign was making sure that there was enough people who would actually be interested in the book, in the first book especially, that they would want to put money in and make it happen, and also to get feedback and input from people, because without the campaign, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't have had my editor. I wouldn't have had Matt. There's a bunch of contributors who I found as a result of the Kickstarter. So, for example, Bernie Stolar, who the ex-president of Sega America.
Yeah.
I would not have been in touch with him if it wasn't for the Kickstarter, because Jordan Freeman, the guy who put me in touch with him, he found the Kickstarter, he backed it, and then he got in touch with me and said, "Hey, I know Bernie. Do you want to talk to him?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So a lot of the big stuff from the book actually came out of me going through Kickstarter, and if I hadn't have done that, it would have just been me writing it on my own, and it would have been a very insular project. I wouldn't have had as much stuff in it. It wouldn't have. I don't think it would have been as good. So Kickstarter, it's about making sure that there's the interest there to start with. It's getting the funds to be able to pay to have the book published, and also being able to have that contribution from other people, from other fans, which is why we had a tier where people could contribute 100-word retrospective to the book, because there's just so many great games, and I've not played them all. There's no way I could cover them all. So I figured if I give people the opportunity to write a small piece about a game that I've not covered, that's a way of being able to talk about more games in the book. And it's the same thing that we're going to do for the second book as well.
Okay, awesome. And so the first Kickstarter was a success, and the book is out. People got it, and now you decided to create a year 2 book, right? Bigger, better. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, the intention was always to do more than one book, depending on how the first book was received. And thankfully, as you say, it did well. It funded. People seemed to enjoy it. So, I went on and I figured, hey, year 2 is what we're going to do next. So, like you said, it's bigger and better. It's year 2 of the Dreamcast. And in Europe, there was so many big games that came out in the second year. I mean, this is the year that Shenmue came out, or the year that Jet Set Radio came out. The big games, basically, the majority of the big games came out in this second year. And also it was the year that the Dreamcast got discontinued. So,
yay.
So lots of really positive stuff.
So many good things, but also that bittersweet feeling, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's a really interesting year. And because of the fact there was so many games, it just automatically had to be bigger. There was one point where I thought, so the first book was constrained in size because of shipping. So when you get past 250 grams, this is very technical here. When you get past 250 grams for shipping, the price goes up quite a lot. So what Sandeep had done with his first book is keep it under that level in order to be able to ship it for a decent amount. So I did the same with the first book, and it was, it meant that we could ship for a decent price, but it also meant that we could only do 112 pages. So that wasn't going to cut it for year 2 because there's just too much. So at first I was thinking about putting year 2 into 2 parts, so making year 2 part 1, year 2 part 2, and having 2 separate Kickstarters and all of that kind of stuff. And the more I thought about it, it was like, actually, no, it belongs in the same book. And yes, the shipping costs will go up, but people are getting more for their money. So it's not so big of a deal. So there's double the amount of retrospectives as there were in year 1. There's more interviews so far. There's going to be a whole new section in the book, and a load more perks as well. So last time it was pretty much just the book, and I produced a sticker as well. And this time there's a book, there's a zine, there's a mini disc, there's a reprint of the first book. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're doing this time around as well.
Awesome. So a lot of people that worked on the first one are returning as well, right? Yeah.
Everybody except the illustrator is returning, and then we've got a lot of new people as well.
Awesome. You've included people that like Corey Marshall, for example, who is you've added to the team of contributors. You have, for example, the coder for V-Rally 2 on the Dreamcast. Michael, I think, or Mikhail Pointier.
I never want to pronounce it. I've only seen his name written. I've never had to pronounce it, so I don't want to do his name a disservice by pronouncing it wrong.
Perhaps
Mike, yeah, we'll say Mike.
MP. Yeah, so a lot of people that know the industry. John Linneman from Digital Foundry, Digital Foundry, Eurogamer. So people who know the industry as well. So that's a lot of good input for this second book. What are you expecting from this second book? I'm expecting it to fund this project to be funded in a day, but what about you?
You think so? That would be great. So the first book took 3.5 weeks to fund. It was getting towards the end, and I was biting my nails. I was really stressed and thinking, this isn't going to make it. I'm not going to do it. And I mean, in the end, it funded, and then it funded more. So I think we funded. I think it was like 116% or something like that. So it funded more than it needed to, which was great. This time, day one. Yeah, let's say day one. It needs to fund on day one, right? But realistically, I would be happy if it funded in a week or so. I mean, I've set the first stretch goal is set so that if it funds by the 9th of August,
your
then
birthday,
I will
right?
include a sticker. My birthday, yeah.
Yes.
So if people can get it to fund by my birthday, which would be an amazing birthday present, I will kind of throw in a sticker like I did last time as the first stretch goal. So we'll see. So the 9th of August is my goal. If we can fund by then, I'll be happy.
Okay, that's amazing. Awesome. So what are some of the stretch goals that you have lined up for this, apart from the sticker? Anything you can share at this point?
I'm trying to think. So I didn't want to do too much in terms of stretch goals because the book itself, I wanted to make sure it was complete and I wasn't leaving anything out and, having to, because that's one thing that I hate. And I know a lot of people hate about Kickstarter is when, especially for video games, when people leave things out and then add them back in later when they've reached a certain amount of money. And it's understandable to a degree, obviously it costs money to add those features in and, they want to make sure the game gets made first and foremost, and that's fine. But when it comes to a book, I figured, hey, everything needs to be in there. So, there's nothing being added to the book. There's nothing being added to the zine or anything like that. The stretch goals will all be additional items. So I don't want to say exactly what they're going to be yet. One, because they're not really 100% pinned down, but also I want to leave some kind of surprise. But suffice it to say, they're separate items and maybe more in the vein of the sticker, I guess, but perhaps better than the sticker.
So 2 stickers.
What's better than 1 sticker?
Exactly.
2 stickers.
So that's great news. So people can expect the book itself to be, it's what you want it to be. So nothing will be added. It's that thing. Everyone will get that book, that version of the book, and then whatever else you want to add will be different rewards, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. That sounds good. The Kickstarter is going live next week, right, Andrew?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
On Tuesday?
Yep, Tuesday the 28th.
Yes. 28th. Okay, so people can check that out at that point, and no pressure, but 24 hours to fund the project, people. So
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. No pressure at all.
Yeah, make sure you back. I mean, there's loads of different tiers as well. So you can back for a lot of money if you want to, or if you really just only want the book, you can just back for that. And there's add-ons this time as well. So if you want 2 books, then you can have 2 books. Just add on. So let's get there in 24 hours.
Yes, exactly.
I'm holding you to this now. You need to make this happen.
So if no one else backs the project, I'll have to back the entire with the entirety of the money in the first day. My God. There goes my mortgage. Okay, so let's take a quick pause from the book and focus a little bit on the podcast. So following the success of the first book, right? You ended up creating a podcast as well. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, podcasting is something that was very new to me when I started the book. I mean, Twitter was new to me at that point. I was not very much of a social media person. I used Facebook a little bit, but Twitter was something I didn't really use. And I got into Twitter and ended up speaking to loads of people in the gaming scene, the retro gaming scene, to promote the book. Got invited onto a couple of podcasts to talk about it. I ended up becoming a team member on a couple of different places, but while I was producing the book and going through the Kickstarter, I realized that, hey, I like podcasting. It's really interesting. It's it's fun. I get to talk about games, which is something I love to do. And what I didn't want to do is kind of copy what a lot of people had already done. So I didn't want to, I was doing a Dreamcast book, and it would be really easy for me just to do a podcast about Dreamcast. But we've got places like the Dreamcast Junkyard who focus solely on the Dreamcast, and I don't want to kind of, I couldn't do what they do better than they could do it. So I didn't see the point in kind of doing another Dreamcast podcast. So what I decided to do was kind of use the idea that I was making a book year one. I was going to be going to do year two. So there's this whole concept of years, and it kind of got me to thinking about the Dreamcast years, the years that the Dreamcast was current on the market, and what else was going on at that time. It wasn't just the Dreamcast. There was a lot of other gaming stuff happening, and it really occurred to me that those were the years in gaming that I enjoyed gaming the most. And it wasn't just it wasn't just for the Dreamcast. It was PlayStation, it was Xbox, it was GameCube, all those kind of consoles. And I figured I could do a podcast talking about these years that the Dreamcast was active, and talking about the different games that were released around that time, and discussing them with people, with guests, and kind of rating them a little bit. So yeah, I decided to do the Dreamcast Years podcast, or DCY podcast. And what we do is every episode, we're not particularly regular. We kind of do it as we can fit it into our schedules. But myself, my good friend Steve, and my other good friend Rich, we all discuss kind of these games of different years. And the years that we've chosen to do are between 1997 and 2008. So it's kind of a year either side of the Dreamcast being current. So the Dreamcast obviously came out in Japan in 1998, and the last officially licensed Dreamcast game came out in 2007 in Japan. So yeah, so we chose those particular years because this is when the Dreamcast was current, but also a lot of amazing games came out during those years. And yeah, so we talk about games during that time, and we have guests. Like we had Corey Marshall on, was our last guest, to talk about 2003, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like this approach. As you said, it's not the thing that you're expecting from a Dreamcast podcast. So I like this approach. Yeah. And then you have the Game of the Year edition, right? So you have the regular podcast episode, and then you'll have after that like a companion episode dedicated to the Game of the Year of that year, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. So yeah, in the main podcast, it'll be the three of us plus the guest discussing and rating games and just talking about that year in general. And then the Game of the Year edition, we will just me, Steve, and Rich. We'll each bring a game that we think was the Game of the Year, and then we'll have to pitch it. So we have a minute to pitch the game to each other, and at the end, a poll goes up on Twitter. So for a week after that episode comes out, people on Twitter get the opportunity to vote for which of the games that we've pitched they think was the Game of the Year. And then what will happen is, as a result of that, obviously one of those games then becomes the DCY game of that year. But also the person who won, whose game it was that kind of won the poll, they'll get to pitch two games the next time. So rather than just getting to pitch one, they pitch two. And the person who lost, the person with the least votes, has to do some kind of forfeit. So their minute gets interrupted in various different ways, and it's quite funny. So yeah, we do that as kind of a companion, and it's quite good fun.
It's fun, yeah, very good. So people should definitely check this out, the Dreamcast Years podcast. Okay, yes. Andrew, let's take a break, and when we come back, I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
So I hope you like surprises.
Yeah.
Interesting is a way to put it. Yes, but maybe not so much. But we'll see.
Okay.
Tired of listening to the same music on the radio over and over again? Wouldn't it be great if you could have a station that played your favorite Sega music and remixes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Luckily, there's Radio Sega, an online radio station dedicated to the best in Sega and Atlas music. And you can request your favorites at any time. Plus, Radio Sega has live shows every single day of the week, including a first-hand preview of the SEGA Lounge. You can find the full schedule of shows and listen to the station by going to radiosega.net. Radio Sega, playing the best Sega music 24/7. Welcome back, Andrew Dickinson.
Hello.
I hope you're ready for what comes next.
I'm nervous now. I'm nervous.
You should be. So we have a sort of a tradition here.
Okay.
Around the SEGA Lounge. So every week our guests have to go through something we like to call the SEGA Lounge Challenge.
Now that you know our guests, it's time to put them to the test. It's the moment we've waited for, and the moment they dread.
Welcome to your doom.
I mean, welcome to the SEGA Lounge Challenge.
Ooh.
Exactly. That's what everyone says. Ooh, and that's the correct. That's the correct reaction to this.
Good.
So it can be anything I want, right? So many different things. This time I thought, okay, so I'm in the presence of like Dreamcast royalty, like a man who knows quite possibly everything about Dreamcast.
I won't go that far, but okay.
Just go with it. And so I created the Dreamcast Challenge. What is the Dreamcast Challenge? I'm not very good with names, but it's a 10-part challenge. Okay. It includes music and questions. So I will want to test your music knowledge, your Sega music or Dreamcast music knowledge, and your Dreamcast and Sega knowledge. But everything, at least in a way, is remotely at least related to the Dreamcast. Okay. So depending on what type of question or challenge it is, you can get up to 2 points. So to a maximum of 20 points.
Okay.
So obviously at least 10 points to break even and to get the official Sega Lounge seal of approval. Okay.
Now I know that there's that. I need to get the official Sega Lounge seal of approval. It has to happen.
It has to happen, of course. So, Andrew, are you ready for the Dreamcast Challenge?
Oh, ready as I'll ever be. Go for it.
Of course. So we'll start with the Sega question, number 1. You can pick an easy question or a hard question. If you pick an easy question, you'll get 1 point with the correct answer. 2 points for a hard question with the correct answer. It's a game of strategy as well.
Yeah. Well, I think I need to suss out how hard the questions are. So I think for the first question, let's go for a hard one and see what I'm dealing with.
Okay, so the hard question for this first one, Andrew Dickinson, in Jet Set Radio, one of the games that you included in your top 5, what is the name of the gang that runs the Koganicho area of Tokyo-to?
Oh my.
The name of the gang that runs Koganicho.
I can't remember any of the names of any of the gangs. I
have a hint for you. I have a hint for you. It's not the GGs.
Right, okay. I can picture the different gangs in my head, and I feel like there was one with like they had like a broken. They were like kind of dressed in black, maybe, and there was like a broken heart. I don't know if I'm thinking of the right one, but I can't. And I feel like that might be them, but I can't think of their name, and I can't even guess. I really can't even guess. No, I'm gonna have to pass.
Nothing.
No.
So the ones that you're referring to are the Love Shockers.
That's it. Yeah.
The correct answer, though, is not the Love Shockers.
Okay.
Is Poison Jam. Poison Jam. That's the correct answer. So no points in this first part of the challenge, but no worries. Still 18 points at stake. So let's go with number 2. Okay.
Sure.
Number 2 is guess a game from a song.
Okay.
So I will play 10 seconds of a song from a Dreamcast game. What I want you to do is to tell me what game this is from, and if you can tell me the title or where in the game it plays, you'll get an additional point. So 1 point for the game, 1 point for the track. Got it?
Okay.
So let's take a listen to this first one. I hope you can hear this. I think so.
Oh,
Any guesses?
goodness. And I've got like images in my head, and it feels like it could be Phantasy Star Online, but part of me is like, no, that's not what it is.
Should I play it again?
Yeah, go on, play it again.
Let's take a listen.
It's been a long time since I've played Phantasy Star Online, and I just know this is not the answer to it. But it kind of, I don't know. My brain is telling me it's the lobby music for Phantasy Star Online. Whoever's listening to this is gonna be shouting and saying, "No, that's not what it is. You're completely wrong." But it's all I can think of. It's all that's in my head, and that's just gonna have to be the answer I go for.
So your final answer is the lobby music from Phantasy Star Online, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Are you sure?
No, but that's the only answer I can think of.
Andrew Dickinson, your answer is incorrect, unfortunately. It's the title screen from Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future.
One of the games I've played the least.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. So let's go with number 3. Challenge number 3 is another Sega question. So again, you can pick between an easy question and a hard question.
It feels like I'm not going to have many chances to do easy questions now. To get to 10, I need to answer a lot of hard questions. So I'm just going to continue with the hard questions. Go for it. A hard question.
Okay, so hard question is, in the first Shenmue game, what is the number of the warehouse where Ryo finds Master Chen?
Oh, somebody told me this the other day, and we're having a discussion about Shenmue, and it's about the forklift driving. And so one of Rich from the DCY podcast, he learned how to be a forklift driver as a result of Shenmue, and we're having this discussion. Yeah, and he was discussing, and we were talking about the warehouse, and it was.
So you have to sneak into the warehouse at night.
That's right.
Have to avoid the guards and whatnot.
It's just a number. I've got 2 numbers in my head, and I need to decide between them. It will be neither of them. Of course it will. I'm not going to get this right. But it's either 9 or 16 that I've got in my head, and I feel like I want to go with 16. 9 is my lucky number, but I feel like 16 is probably correct out of the 2. You'll tell me I'm guessing.
So your answer is number 16?
16.
Your answer is incorrect. It was not 9, though. It was 8.
Okay.
Warehouse number 8. So very close to your lucky number. If you want to be technical, the old warehouse number 8, because there are 2 warehouse districts in the Yokosuka harbor, at least in the game, and it's warehouse number 8. Okay. So next challenge. This is turning out to be harder than I thought, which I'm enjoying very much, to be honest.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
So this is a one-off. Guess the track from lyrics. So instead of music, I will recite the lyrics to a song that's part of a Dreamcast game. The question is, can you identify at least the game for 1 point or the track for an extra point?
Okay.
Okay, so here it goes. When we first got together, everything felt so right. You said you wanted to be with me, said you wanted to hold me tight. But after all is said and done, where do I go from here? That's it.
Ooh. So I almost could hear it in my head.
Should I read this again? Or
Can
maybe...
I ask?
Yes.
This isn't going to be. I'm worried this is going to be a trick question. Were the words sung in English or were they sung in Japanese and you've translated them?
No. In English.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, read them again just to make sure I
So,
can picture this.
When we first got together, everything felt so right. You said you wanted to be with me, said you wanted to hold me tight. But after all is said and done, where do I go from here?
So I don't think there's a huge amount of games on the Dreamcast that have tracks with vocals. The ones that I can think of are the both Sonic Adventure. I'm pretty sure one had a vocal track, but I know two did for a fact. A couple of rap tracks as well, but I'm guessing that's not a rap. There's Metropolis Street Racer, which obviously had music created for it, as well as licensed music. Can I ask if it's a licensed track or an original track, or is that too much of a question to ask?
This is an original track.
Original track, okay.
It's to my knowledge. Yes, it is.
Okay. Jet Set Radio had original tracks and licensed tracks. I'm struggling. I'm really... I feel like I'm like the worst Dreamcast fan right now.
I don't think I would. Maybe I would with these exact words, but most songs, just by hearing the lyrics being read by another person, I wouldn't get them. So yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry. I will give you one hint.
Okay.
So this is an original song for the game. Both the composer and the vocalist had worked in another Sega game before, or another game in a Sega system.
Okay. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
It's going to help somebody. The good thing about this quiz is going to test a lot of people who are listening as well, and they're gonna go, "Hey, I am a better Sega fan than Andrew Dickinson, so all is good." My absolute guess is that it is. Oh, hang on. I'm flashing all the Dreamcast games that I know through my head.
You said Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, right? You said Metropolis Street Racer. You said Jet Set Radio.
Yeah.
Does any of them sound like it could be the one for these lyrics?
The only one that I feel it could be, and it's because there's this one song with a female vocalist in Metropolis Street Racer. Cannot remember the name of the song, but it's kind of, it has like, it's an upbeat, it's a love song, and it feels like that could be the lyrics to that. I'm so bad at remembering things though, but that is going to have to be my guess. I don't know the name of the track, but it's...
So your guess is Metropolis Street Racer, is it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your guess is correct. Yes.
Wow.
This is Am I Only Dreaming from Metropolis Street Racer. The duo involved here is Richard Jakes, the composer.
Yes.
Not many people like him these days for things he said on social media. And the lovely TJ Davis. So they had worked before in Sonic R. So
okay. Interesting.
They had done a lot of songs, and she sings other songs from Metropolis Street Racer as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah,
okay,
one's good. I'll take one.
Let's see what happens in the next 6 parts of the challenge. Number 5 is another Sega question. So easy or hard?
See, I know that there's going to be more ones about songs, and I'm so bad with titles that the most I'm going to get out of those is 1 point. So for the Sega questions, I am going to have to go for a hard question again, just for a chance.
Okay, so I will give you a hard question now.
Okay.
Not sure if this is hard, but okay. In Virtua Fighter 3 TB, what does the TB in the title stand for?
I definitely know this one. That's good. TB stands for Team Battle.
So you're saying Virtua Fighter 3 TB is actually Virtua Fighter 3 Team Battle?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is that your final answer?
You're making me doubt myself. I wrote about this, so I'm definitely sure. Don't make me doubt myself now. Yes, so that's my final answer.
Andrew Dickinson, your answer is correct. Yes,
Hooray.
it is.
For a second there, I was like, I wrote about this in my book. If I'm wrong about this is going to look really bad. No, yeah.
That's
Good.
part of the challenge. So,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So 2 points. Awesome. Let's you're 3 points in. Let's see what happens next. Number 6 is another guess a game from a song challenge. So let's take a listen to the second song in this challenge. Let's hear this.
Oh, now then.
Any guesses?
Again, there's no way I'm going to ever guess a title.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a Sonic song. Now I've got to figure out if it's Adventure 1 or Adventure 2.
Shall I play it again?
Yeah, once more.
Okay, let's see if this brings back any memories.
Okay.
There's an epicness to this song,
there
and
is.
like an adventure feel, right?
Exactly. You're going to tell me in a minute that it's not Sonic at all, but my guess is it doesn't feel like Sonic Adventure 2. It also doesn't.
So something epic, something adventurous.
So now I'm thinking it could be something like Skies of Arcadia. But my memory of that music is hazy at best. I've wanted to get the vinyl soundtrack of that for a long time. So if I had have got that, I would know whether or not this was in fact Skies of Arcadia. But I don't own that soundtrack. No, I don't. Yeah, it does. It's reminiscent of Sonic Adventure to a degree, but I'm feeling like it's not. But you could just be throwing me off.
I'm just here to help you.
Yeah,
or maybe
of course
not.
Of course, that's what you'll say. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I'll give you an answer, but it's gonna be the opposite to whatever I say. I'll say Skies of Arcadia.
Any guesses regarding the track title or something? No. Just going for the game.
Yeah, just to get. I could never guess the track. I'm bad with track titles for things like this. So yeah, I'll just say I'm guessing Skies of Arcadia is the game.
So it's got an epic feel to it. It's like something adventurous. Like for example, maybe an adventure that Sonic got into. Maybe perhaps no. It's definitely Skies of Arcadia. Good job. Well done.
Wow.
I was helping.
You were helping.
Yes.
You were helping. That's
and
good.
I don't usually do this. So, yeah. So 1 point. 1 point. Good job.
Yes.
Good job. 4 points.
Thanks.
Let's go with number 7. So, Sega question again. Easy or hard? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, let's go hard. Yeah.
Let's go hard. Okay. Which of the following versions of Virtua Striker 2 was the only one to be ported to the Dreamcast? Which of the following versions? So there are 4 versions of the arcade game. 98, Virtua Striker 2 98, 99, 2000, or 2000.1. Which of these was the only one to be ported to the Dreamcast as Virtua Striker 2?
I know this for a fact. So
Okay.
I had to put the library section at the back of the book together for all the PAL games that got released during year one. There's a lot of games. I had to find all of the titles, the release dates. The release dates were so hard to find, which you wouldn't think they would be. One of the games that released in year one was Virtua Striker 2, which was 2000.1, version 2000.1.
So not 2000 or 99 or no,
No, it was
2000.1
definitely
for sure.
0.1, for sure.
No doubt about it. Yeah,
No doubt about it.
no doubt about it. So, unfortunately, your answer is correct. Yes.
You really like to misdirect
2
me there, don't you?
points. 2 points. So 6
Hooray.
points so far. 6 points. Almost at that midway mark of 10 points. Let's see what happens with challenge number 8. You guessed it's another game, another song actually from a game, but this is the hard mode because it's the last one.
Okay.
So it's in reverse.
Oh my. Okay.
So what could it be? 10-second long clip, and the track is in reverse. Let's take a listen.
Okay. Oh, that's difficult. I'm gonna need to hear it again straight away.
Of course, let's get to it.
It's difficult because when hearing it backwards, it sounds like a very urgent song, but because it's backwards, it also sounds like it's a little bit menacing. But I'm guessing it's not that when it's played forward. It's probably not a menacing song. I feel like it's Sonic Adventure 2, but I couldn't give you a track title again because I'm bad at that stuff. And I'm not 100% sure. But it sounds kind of in that vein.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
I can't be sure, but yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 would be my guess.
Sonic Adventure 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to play the track not in reverse.
Okay.
See if you still think the same way.
Okay.
Let's take a listen.
That's Sonic Adventure 1.
So,
Pretty sure.
1, 2, something different?
It's Sonic Adventure 1.
So, no track?
I can't tell you the track. I'm
Or
pretty
where
sure
it plays
it's
in
from
the
the
game?
first. It's the first level. Again, don't ask me the name of the first level, but it's the it's the very with the whale. I'm pretty certain that is what it is.
So, as I said before, not just the track title, but if you could tell me in the game where it plays, it's the first level. So, it's Sonic Adventure. This is Azure Blue World from Emerald Coast in Sonic Adventure. So, 2 points. Yes. Not in reverse was better, right? In reverse is too hard.
It was definitely. I could tell it was Sonic Adventure. I was really struggling to. I don't know. There was something about it. This set in reverse. It sounded like a Sonic Adventure 2 track. That's really weird.
Okay, so 8 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Getting closer. Mm-hmm.
And 2 questions to go. 2 questions. Number 9 is a question. It's the last one where you have a chance of answering an easy question because the last one is the final one, so it's a hard question. So
the last question's automatically 2 points?
Yes, or 0 if you answer it incorrectly.
True.
So
all right, so either I go
hard?
for so if I go for easy, if I only get 1 point, then the next question I either get no points, which means I lose anyway, or I get 2 points, which means I get 11, so I would have won anyway. I might as well go for a hard question then, mightn't I?
I think that is the correct decision. So, hard question is, in which Dreamcast game did David Bowie make 2 cameo appearances, apart from contributing to the soundtrack?
I definitely know this as well. It has 2 titles, depending on where in the world you are. It is Omicron, The Nomad Soul, or if you're from Europe, The Nomad Soul.
That is an excellent answer. Is it the correct one, though?
I'm hoping so.
And you're hoping right, because it is the correct answer. Well done. So 10 points. 10 points. So this
Hooray.
final question is like, it's the victory lap. Of
Yeah,
sorts.
yeah.
So, or not. Let's see.
We'll see.
Final question. 2 points. What is the name of the Dreamcast puzzle game published by Sega that was not released commercially but was instead bundled in various ways, including in the UK with the official Dreamcast magazine? It's a puzzle game published by
I do
Sega.
know it. I do know it, but I feel like I might have the title slightly incorrect. But it got really, yeah, like you say, it got released in a demo disc for the official Dreamcast magazine here,
Mhm, mhm.
and I'm pretty certain it's Sega Swirl.
Sega Swirl is your final answer.
Sega Swirl is my final answer.
Andrew,
Mhm.
Sega Swirl is the correct answer. Well done.
Thank goodness.
So that means 12 points. You pass
Yay.
our Sega Lounge challenge.
That's good.
Well done.
I feel good about that. I'm glad I got 12 because I feel like there was a slight bit of cheating on the Sonic Adventure one, because I'm sure you wouldn't have played that forward if I was better. So I can comfortably
was
say I
really hard.
I got through.
Okay, yes, you did. So well done, good job. Sega Swirl, by the way, is a game that I like very much. I have very fond memories of. I'm from Portugal, but I actually I had a kiosk that had the official Dreamcast magazine over here, and so I used to buy the magazines here, and it came with one of the demo discs, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
There's something great about demo discs. Like you don't get them anymore, and there was something really cool about being able to try something that you would just never have thought to try. Because there's demos these days, but you have to choose to download it. Whereas you got given it as part of a magazine, and you just kind of go, oh, it's on there. I'll give it a try. I'll see what it's like. And you got to discover so many cool new games that way. You just don't get to do that anymore.
You rarely download demos for games that you don't think you'll enjoy, right? So
exactly,
or you know nothing about.
Yeah,
we have so much to play these days. It's hard to get through everything.
So much. I've still got Dreamcast games that I've not played that I need to play. That's how many games I've got.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
Okay, so well done, Andrew. So before we go, let's help people with all the Kickstarter stuff. So it goes live on Tuesday. So depending on when people are listening to this episode of the Sega Lounge, it could possibly be live right now. So how can people find the Kickstarter project? What's the best way to follow you guys and find the Kickstarter page as well?
Sure. So there is a link to the Kickstarter page, but it's very long to read out. So probably the best thing to do, you can go on to Kickstarter if you're listening between the 28th of July and the 27th of August. We'll be live on Kickstarter. If you go there and just search for Dreamcast Year 2 unofficial book, you will find us on the Kickstarter. You can also go to Twitter, and there I am at Oddment84. That's my personal account. You'll find I'll talk a lot about the book there. And also you can find us at Dreamcast Years, where we talk about the podcast and also the book. If you're on Facebook, I do post there from time to time, and that is, if you search for Dreamcast Years on Facebook, you'll find us as well. So I'll generally post links and things on Facebook for people to find too.
Awesome. And obviously, just check out the show notes for all the links, and including the Kickstarter page link. It will be there as well. So check that out and give it a read, right? And figure out if you want to pledge. I think people should. What are some of the perks or tiers that people will have available to pledge?
I mean, you can back and get a digital copy of the book. Basically, everything comes with a copy of the zine, DCY zine, which is going to be kind of like the podcast in that it'll look at other consoles other than the Dreamcast when the Dreamcast was on the market. So lots of little articles and artwork in there. So you can get a copy of the book, a copy of the zine, either digitally or physically. There's a reprint of Dreamcast Year 1. So if you missed the first time around, because we're sold out now, then we'll be doing a reprint that you can get your hands on. You can have your name in the book. You can have 100 words of a retrospective in the book at the very highest tier. Also, we're doing an exclusive episode of the Dreamcast Years podcast that's only going to be available physically. So you can get that on mini disc, which is going to be like a really deluxe, fully printed mini disc with a case and liner notes and everything, because mini disc is definitely from that era, and it's kind of a lost media, just like the Dreamcast, a lost thing. There's going to be a limited number of those, and if you back at a certain tier, you can pitch your favorite Dreamcast game for a minute, just like the Game of the Year podcast. You can pitch your favorite Dreamcast game for a minute if you back at a certain tier. If you don't want to get a mini disc, or if you're not interested in pitching, we're also going to release it on CD, kind of a basic CD version, but it will never come out digitally. So it's going to be an episode of the podcast that will only ever be available to listen to physically.
Awesome. So those are a lot of incentives to back. I'm especially fond of the reprint of the first book, because I never got to actually support the first Kickstarter and never got the book itself. So I'm definitely going for that one as well.
Yeah. It's going to be good. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, so it's a second version of it. There's not going to be much changed. It'll just be like making sure that if there were any typos, we fix those, because there's always one that slips through the net. But also we are partnered with the Dreamcast Junkyard this time around, and so we're going to be adding their logo to the first book, and obviously a lot of the team from Dreamcast Junkyard are going to be contributing to Year 2. So yeah, that's going to be awesome too.
Awesome. Anything you'd like to say to our listeners that are just thinking about, should I check this out? Should I not?
I mean, it's a book that it's not just a book. It's, as I say, there's so much more. There's the zine, but the book itself, it's not just about it's about the story of Year 2, but it's also kind of retrospective of the games. It's also a lot of the appeal of the first book, which is going to carry on to the second book, is the artwork. And we have original illustrations by our artist, Dan Tiller. The first book was done by Eric Pavic. So the second book is going to have a very different look and feel in terms of the art style. And that's a huge part of the books. It's, it's not just hearing about the story of the Dreamcast from a more European perspective. We have all of those European box covers, all of the a lot of the information about what happened with the Dreamcast when it was in Europe. So it's not just about that, it's also about the art style and the artwork that you get to see, which is it's something you don't see in a lot of books these days. And it's it's all physical. You can have a digital copy if you'd like, but it's something you can physically have on your bookshelf that tells the story of what a lot of people think is one of the best consoles of all time, and potentially one of Sega's most creative and unique consoles for sure. So yeah, it's something that is worth having to have in your collection. It's worth having a look.
Definitely. And if you get the physical book, if someone gets into your house, you can still use the physical book to attack them, maybe hit them in the head. So physical books are always better than digital versions for that reason alone.
True.
Not just for that, but mostly for that.
True.
And
I mean,
I'm just
to be fair,
kidding.
If I was reading, yeah, I know. But if you're reading the digital book, you'd be reading it on a phone or a tablet, and that's got a bit more of a weight to it than a book. So if you're going to attack somebody, attack them with your phone or your tablet.
I don't know, but
you'll do more damage.
But it's smaller. I don't know. Maybe maybe you're right. Okay, so never mind that.
Don't
just
get
get
the book.
digital version.
The blood won't come out of the book. You can wipe that off your tablet. It's fine.
You're working against yourself here, so don't tell that to people.
Well, you'll get if you buy the physical version, you'll get a digital version automatically. So keep the physical version safe on your bookshelf and only attack people that attack you with the digital copy on your phone.
Yes. So keep it blood-free, yes, on your shelf.
Pristine.
Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. I have one last question for you, which is the question that I ask all of my guests all the time. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but in the US at least, Sega had a marketing gimmick during the Genesis days. We know it as the Dreamcast, but they said the Genesis had blast processing, which was not a real thing, but they said it was what made the Genesis more powerful than the Super Nintendo. Blast processing. So if you could add blast processing to anything in the world, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a good question. What needs blast processing more than anything else? I'm trying to think. Blast processing. My book. Let's give my book blast processing. I don't know what effect it would have on it. Would it make it faster? I'm not sure how that would help. But it, a faster book that you can flick through much quicker. If you wanted to, maybe it flicks through itself. You don't have to turn the pages. The blast processing does it for you. What could be better than that?
Yeah, and more powerful. So if someone got into your house again, there's always that.
Exactly.
I'm kind of obsessed with people getting into other people's houses.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Not sure why. Maybe it's the whole pandemic situation. So yeah, that's a good answer.
Speak to somebody about it.
Maybe I need therapy. I've been in need of therapy for a long time. My listeners can attest to that. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
all the best for Dreamcast Year 2, for the podcast as well. So people, don't forget to check that out. All the links will be in the show notes. And hopefully you can come back sometime soon to talk about at least Dreamcast Year 3, perhaps?
Yeah, that would be great.
Things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, people listening, make sure you're back on day one, because otherwise he's going to have to pay for the whole thing.
I forgot about that. Damn. Oh, damn. Yes, please do. That was Andrew Dickinson, this week's guest and another proud owner of the SEGA Lounge seal of approval. As stated during the interview, the Dreamcast Year 2 Kickstarter project is going live on Tuesday, July 28th, so be sure to support it. You can find the link to the project in the show notes. Also, Andrew's podcast, Dreamcast Years, is a great listen if you're looking for a different take on the years when the Dreamcast was active. Definitely recommend it. Again, all relevant links will be in the show notes for you to check out. Next week will be our final episode before the summer break. I'll be joined by a distinguished member of the Sega community. Someone that, for some reason, it took me more than 120 episodes of the show to have him on. Too long. We'll correct that mistake next week, so please be sure to join me then. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please consider subscribing. The easiest way is probably to go to thesegalounge.com and click the subscribe button on the top right corner. Choose your preferred podcast service and you're all set. You'll never miss an episode of the show ever again. Let me just remind you that while there won't be any new full episodes in August, I'll be adding some short interviews I've recorded in the past to the podcast feeds. Just a little something to keep you company in my absence. As usual, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and be kind to each other. The SEGA Lounge will reopen its doors next week. I hope to catch you all then. Bye-bye. The SEGA Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to kc@radiosega.net. Follow us on Twitter @the SEGA Lounge. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.